Okay, I got the 4020 back in the shop. We're going to pull the injector pump today, so I want to show you how to do that, or how I do it. First thing I'm going to do is cap off this fuel line. At least that's what I think I'm going to do. So I got the kit for this pump. I figure since it's raining, it'd be a good time to do this, but I want to show you how to set the timing before you pull the pump. It's kind of there's a bit of a procedure. This thing ain't gonna leak, is it? We're gonna cap it anyway, because I know it'll drip fuel out if I don't. So we'll put an 1/8 inch plug and cap in there. Cap that off. So I cleaned the pump area up a little bit on it. So what you're going to want to do is there's a timing mark behind this window. You open up. Somebody has marked this. Last time it was taken off, we had a mark right there. But the real timing mark's in this window. So we'll pull that off there. You're going to lose some diesel when you take this off. So a lot of guys pull these off and they take them to a pump shop, and I think that's a good idea. I don't think everybody's, if you're uncertain about doing this job, you probably shouldn't do it. Oh, that was good. I went right into, leaked right into the tachometer drive there. So I'm gonna let that diesel drain out there a little bit. Another thing I want to show you on these tractors, this is a 4020 power shift. I think all of them are kind of like this. There's a little plate on the right hand side of your bell housing or clutch housing, and you take this little plate off, and there's a timing mark inside here. So a 4020 is not the easiest engine to turn over. It's hard to get anything on the front. So I'm going to try to get a hold of that bar might not work. You can get a hold of the teeth on the flywheel here, and you can turn them. Actually, I need to go, better to go in the direction of rotation, but this is the easy way to turn them over. So we should come across the timing mark on this flywheel. Okay, so the easiest way to probably do this is to turn your crankshaft until you see that bottom ring. I'm not sure how best to do the lighting here, but this bottom ring in this pump turns. And note the direction of rotation. This one, when I'm turning the engine forward, turns, if you're looking at the face of the pump, it's turning in a clockwise motion. But you can see right here, or maybe you can, that I have the timing marks lined up. Now, that's where you want to stop your engine. That down in this hole here, I can see a mark that says TDC. So I'm going to assume that the timing is right on it. But what you want to do is turn your engine over until you line up those two marks. And that's how I ended up finding my TDC mark, because it was covered in rust. I couldn't see it. So I basically cranked the engine watching this window until I got those marks exactly lined up. And that's where you're going to want to stop turning your engine. you might make a note of where it's at here. This could take up to 2 turns of the engine, actually that way. It could take up to 2 turns of the engine to get to where you need to be. I don't want to turn the engine. I want to be sure it doesn't move while I've got the pump off, because this is where we want it to be when we put it back together. It's exactly the same. This is like timing a distributor on a gas engine. You could have it 180 out, you know, or you could have it. The thing about a diesel is they won't run if they're out of time by 2 or 3 degrees. That's about all it takes to mess them up. So you want to be sure and get that timing right. Now you're ready to pull your pump off. And this is just a matter of taking lines loose and we're going to leave as many of them in place as we can. We will probably have to pull off these clamps on the injector lines. I'm not going to try to keep all the injector lines in one place, or in one. I'm not going to pull them off with the pump, because to do that you'd have to pull the oil cooler, drain the coolant, all that stuff. This line here is just kind of where it's going to be there. Got a throttle linkage. It might be easier to let it back up in the run position to get to that. There's a clip. I believe there's a clip that slides frontwards or backwards on there. Slides to the back. So you slide this little clip. Ouch. Smash your fingers a couple times for good measures. There we go. Slide that clip back and you undo your throttle. You want to be sure it's unhooked before you do anything else there. Probably the worst line to get to is the back one, but it can be done. Got a fancy little ratchet wrench, but it might get stuck back there. I don't know. It may not work. I can still get it off there. We're getting stuck there. So that ain't good. Can't reverse it. I've not had ratchet wrenches for very long. I don't find them being very useful very often. Some people say they can't live without them, but I guess I've lived without them for so long, I'm just not very handy with them. I do like the stubby wrenches for stuff like this though. Makes life easy. So these are a banjo fitting. They've got a washer on the inside and the outside. So they're pretty tricky to get back on right. I guess that's what they call a banjo fitting. I may be wrong, but good thing it ain't an 8-cylinder. It's just a 6, so I'm gonna take it back. That might be the hardest one to get off right there. Breather tube's kind of in the way. Anyway, I can't pull the bolt out of the back when I'm going to leave it in place. You got to remember that when you put this back together too, because you'll have to have that bolt in place and the washer's ready. The way this works, these bolts are hollow, so the fuel actually goes through here and then out into this fitting. My new kit came with washers. Most kits do, so don't worry so much about losing one if you are doing this. And your pump shop should supply you with the new set if they rebuild your pump for you. At least I think they do. You'll have to kind of lift the line out to get the washer out of there. Now at this point, I've got to get enough room here to get these lines out of the way. I may have to loosen a few of the shorter ones in the back from the injector. And that's going to require, I think it's 11/16 or a 3/4. And then a 1/2 inch for a backup on your injector nut or line. This may be easier with the hood off, I don't know. Let's see, are those 3/4 or are they bigger than that? No, they're 3/4 inch, that's what I was thinking. So that one's gonna be kind of tricky because it's right over that cooler line. The oil cooler, the engine oil cooler's right there, so not a lot of room. There's a little bit of flex in that injector pipe though. You can kind of yeah, I thought that was loose. It's somewhat loose. Oh, I forgot about that. That nut turns on that injector line. So we can actually turn it like that. That's smart. Oh, those are 7/16. Aren't they? Yeah. I think I'll go ahead and just take this clamp completely off. I'm not sure if you can actually see what I'm doing here, but a little bit dark. On some pumps, it may be easier to leave injector lines on it when you take it off the engine. Some of them you can do that with. But like I say, you'd have to take the oil cooler off to get this one off that way, and I don't want to do that. I think by just loosening up these two clamps and then maybe loosening up the injector, this is a slow process. Speed this up a little bit. So these are threaded on the back side. You can kind of remember where they go because of the shape of the rubber. We've got those loose. I may go ahead and loosen all the injector fittings. Reason being, I think it'll just make them move a little bit out of the way. Have a little bit of a pivot motion. I might have to take the front clamp off too, but I don't think I'm gonna have to. I think I may pull that one off. I may pull these back two completely off. That might give us just enough room to get it out of there. That's the one with the bolt in it. Number 5. Number 6 injector line. That back one shouldn't be a problem. And these two I can fold up out of the way. So now we'll take the bolt off of the, there's a nut on each side of the injector pump at the bottom. That back one is a bear, but it can be got. It would probably be easier if this tube here was not. If I lower that down a little bit, it gives me a little bit more room. Maybe. Not a lot of room there. My heater's coming on. In case you're wondering what that noise is. Okay, the easiest way to do that would probably be to pull the hood and pull this out. But I think I can get it out of there. I'm going to use a 9/16 crowfoot. That's what you call a crowfoot wrench. That will do the job right there. So I'm going to break this video down into 2 parts. So this is just more of a tutorial on how to pull the injector pump. I'm actually going to reseal it. I'm going to do that in a separate video, but sometimes I think people just need some basic information, and sometimes a 40-minute video is not where you really want to get it. You're in a hurry, you kind of need to get something done. Believe me, I've been there. I've looked at YouTube trying to find videos on stuff. And so there's a wealth of information on YouTube. It's just finding it sometimes takes a while. Back when I was a kid, we didn't have YouTube, we didn't have Google. We had to actually use books and ask questions to mechanics. I remember going into shops and asking service managers how to do something, and Of course, I worked in a deer shop for a little bit and I learned a lot. That was back in 1989 and 90. I didn't work there very long, worked there for a little while. Probably should have stuck with wrenching, I don't know. Back in those days, they wasn't paying much in farm shops. I needed to make more money. So farm shops nowadays are doing a lot better, I think, on pay, from what I understand. But the job has gotten way more technical now, though, because it's a lot of computers and a lot of diagnostics. Well, I wish I could say this come off quick, but it doesn't. Finally, I can get it turned by hand. There we go. Now to get the nut off there, you're going to have to lift it a little bit. Washers. I had 2 washers on one side and 1 on the other. Now we're just going to lift this pump up out of here. Try not to drop any of those into the bottom. So when you pull it off, that's what you're going to look like. That's kind of what your drive tang looks like. There is an arrow on there, or a V mark, and it's pointed toward, if I remember right, that V mark is for timing your, like if you pull this, if you ever pull this out or change that gear, you can line it up off of there. Anyway, that's what you do. Then you box up your pump or you haul it to the pump shop. You cover everything up, keep it dry, keep the water out of it. It's a good idea to tape these lines up, keep the dirt out of them, and just a little bit of dirt in these injector lines can run an injector. So anyway, it's not a complicated job, not super complicated. Good old 4020, these are good tractors. I know people think I knock John Deere a lot, and I do. I'm not the biggest John Deere fan, but you cannot beat old iron. I don't care if it's made by Case, made by John Deere, made by Alice Chalmers, Massey Ferguson. The old stuff was good stuff. It's too bad they don't build stuff like this now. I mean, for instance, look at the wiring harness. This is the wiring harness on the engine. What was there, 8, 10 wires in there? And this actually used to have a generator, or, well, I'm not sure if this one had a generator. Some models had generators, and there's more wires here than you actually need. And this one wire, they've got everything tied into one. So, you know, very simple, very reliable, very dependable stuff. They've got a wire down to the oil pressure sensor down here. That's for your engine oil pressure. Stupid simple. Anyway, I'm a fan of real diesels, and when I say real diesel, I mean there's no electronics on these injectors. It all comes from a pump. This pump doesn't even need energized to work. The shutoff on this pump is, well, it's on the throttle lever. So simple. If your throttle lever breaks, quits running, well, that's a problem. You get you a piece of baling wire and you throttle it up where you need it and keep working. Anyway, I'll get back to you when I'm installing the pump, and we'll do part 2 on that.